For 7 years he had never stood up, not even once. And now the whole kingdom was watching, waiting for him to fail. The little boy put his small hands on the heavy iron bar. It was so heavy that 6 strong men could barely pull it. And there he was, a child who could not even walk, about to try and lift it. The king's wicked wife, Sasuma, stood in the crowd with a smile on her face. She was ready to laugh. She was ready to watch this boy fall flat on the ground in front of everybody. But she did not know what was about to happen. Nobody did. Sundiata took a deep breath. He held the cold iron tight, and then, slowly, he began to pull. His arms shook, his face went tight, sweat ran down his head. The iron bar started to lift off the ground, a little, and then a little more. The crowd went quiet, so quiet you could hear the wind. And then the boy who could not walk pushed down on that iron bar, and he began to rise. His legs were shaking, his knees were bending, but he kept pushing. He pushed against the iron, and he pushed against everything the world had ever said about him. And then, for the very first time in his whole life, Sundiata stood up. He was on his feet. He was standing tall. The crowd could not believe their eyes. Mouths fell open. Nobody made a sound. And the iron bar, the heavy iron bar that 6 men could barely move, it bent right there in his hands like a soft branch until it was curved like a hunter's bow. Then Sundiata took his very first step, and his second, and his third. His mother, Sogalon, was crying, but this time she was not crying because she was sad. She was crying because her son, her boy that everyone had laughed at, was walking toward her with his head held high. But Sundiata was not finished yet. Oh no, he remembered. He remembered how that cruel woman, Sasuma, had laughed at his mother. He remembered how his mother had cried on the floor, all because she could not get a few baobab leaves to cook. So the boy walked. He walked step by step all the way to the biggest baobab tree in the whole land. It was huge. It was old. Its trunk was thick and wide. Grown men could not move that tree if 100 of them tried. Sundiata wrapped his arms around it, and he pulled the whole tree right out of the ground, roots and all. Then he lifted that giant tree onto his shoulders, and he carried it all the way back, and he set it down right in front of his mother's house, and he said to her, "Mother, from this day on, you will never have to beg anyone for leaves again. From now on, all the women of this kingdom will have to come to your door when they want baobab leaves." That day, everything changed. The people stopped laughing. The whispers stopped. The boy they had once called cursed, the boy they said would never walk, was now the strongest person anyone had ever seen. And the years went by. Sundiata grew. He grew tall. He grew strong. He became the best hunter in the whole kingdom. He could run faster than the other boys. He could fight better than the grown men. People loved him. They followed him. When he walked through the village, children ran beside him just to be near him. The people began to say a new word about Sundiata. They no longer called him cursed. Now they called him the Lion. But not everyone was happy. No. While the people grew to love Sundiata more and more, one heart grew darker and darker, the heart of Sasuma. She watched the boy get stronger every day. She watched the people cheer for him, and her old smile turned into fear, and her fear turned into hate, because she remembered the words of that wise old man long ago. He had said that Sundiata would one day be the greatest king of all. And that was the one thing Sasuma could not allow.
She had her own son, remember, and she wanted her son to be king, not Sundiata, never Sundiata. So Sasuma began to make a plan in the dark. Then, one sad day, the old king died, and everything that was holding Sundiata safe died with him. You see, before he passed away, the good king had said clearly that Sundiata would be the one to take his place. That was his wish, that was his order. But Sasuma did not care about the king's wish. While the kingdom was crying for the dead king, she made her move. Quickly, before anyone could stop her, she put her own son on the throne, and she pushed Sundiata and his mother to the side, like they were nothing. And now that her son was king, Sasuma had real power. The kind of power that could hurt people, the kind of power that could make people disappear. And she turned all of that power toward one little family. Sundiata's mother saw it coming. A mother always knows. She saw the cold looks. She heard the quiet threats. She knew that Sasuma would not stop until Sundiata was dead. So one night, Sogalan made the hardest choice of her life. She gathered her children close, Sundiata, his little brother, his sisters, and in the dark, with almost nothing in their hands, this brave mother took her children and she ran. She ran away from the only home they had ever known. She left Mali behind to keep her son alive. Can you imagine it? The boy who was promised to be the greatest king in the land was now running for his life with no home, no throne, and no friends. They walked for days, then weeks, then months. They went from village to village far away, asking strangers for a place to sleep. Some people were kind to them, but many were not. Some kings were too afraid to help them because they didn't want trouble with the powerful Sasuma. There were cold nights when they had no food. There were long days when they had nowhere to go. Sundiata watched his mother grow tired. He watched her grow old before his eyes. And in his heart, the young boy made a quiet promise. He promised that one day he would make all this right. One day he would take her home. And so, for years and years, Sundiata lived far away from home, a prince with nothing, growing up in lands that were not his own, waiting and growing stronger and waiting some more. He was no longer a small boy now. He was becoming a young man, tall, strong, brave. The kings who once turned him away slowly began to see something special in him. They saw the way he could fight. They saw the way people wanted to follow him. And in a faraway land, a wise king finally took him in and gave him a place to stay and let him learn the ways of war. Little by little, the lost prince was becoming a leader. But here's the thing about waiting. While Sundiata was away, while he was wandering far from home, something terrible was happening back in his land. A new power was rising, a dark one. Far away, a cruel king was growing strong. They said he was not just a king. They said he was a sorcerer, a man of black magic. They said no weapon could hurt him. They said no arrow could touch him. They said he could not be killed by anyone or anything. His name was Sumaoro. And soon, one by one, kingdom by kingdom, he was swallowing the whole land, burning villages, taking everything. And soon his cold eyes turned toward Mali, the home that Sundiata had left behind. The people of Mali were afraid, they were suffering, and they began to remember a story about a boy who stood up when no one thought he could, a boy they once called the lion. And they began to whisper a question to one another in the dark. Where is Sundiata? Where is the lion of Mali? Will he ever come home and save us?